please join me in welcoming Governor Doug Ducey.
Thanks very much, Jeff. I really appreciate the kind words. It's great to see a packed house here at the Mauna Lucia. I want to welcome all of you to Arizona, and I know there's many people that live here, many people in from out of state, and I'm excited about the program that we have for the remainder of the day. And I want to tell you a little bit about how this happened. You know, part of the reason I ran for this office is I come from the world you live in. I was a businessman and an entrepreneur, and I think we have a great state. We have a great product, and I wanted the rest of the country and the rest of the world to see it that same way. And I want to say a special thanks to John Reagan, who, along with Jessica Pacheco, introduced me to Jack Selby, a successful businessman whose mark was made in many ways with a company that's headquartered in California. But he just happens to be a resident of Paradise Valley and a proud Arizonan. And we talked about ways that we could demonstrate for the community the good things we're doing in Arizona. And it just wasn't that long ago. And here we are today with a sold-out room and exciting things on the way. So I'm going to give you a little overview on some of the things that are happening in Arizona so that you're aware. Because really what you say about what's happening in the state of Arizona is more important than what I say about what's happening in the state of Arizona. You know that you are around leaders and business people and influencers who affect decisions, not only for headquarter offices, but for supply chains and for existing businesses that are already here in Arizona. So this is an incredibly exciting time for our state. There are some wide open opportunities because of some of the market dynamics that are happening with our neighbors, both to the west and to the south. So today, we kick off the 2017 Arizona Tech Innovation Summit. I've had an opportunity, you know, you get a lot of asked to make trips to places like Shanghai and Seoul, South Korea. Those are great places. I opened up ice cream stores in both of them. But we've chosen to make our economic development trips to places like San Francisco and Silicon Valley. It seems like there's a lot easier targets to find there, and some of the world's brightest minds that don't really like what is happening in public policy and regulation in those areas. And as a matter of fact, my chief of staff, who you're going to meet today, Kirk Adams, along with Sandra Watson, who you heard from earlier, who is the head of the Commerce Authority, make the trip to California at least once a month, and specifically Northern California, to meet with businesses. So it's a real treat to have so many of you visiting us here today in the state of Arizona. And I often like to say, you know, in Arizona, we've got a number of dynamics. A lot of young people, we've got a lot of old people, and we have a rapidly changing demographic. And if that's not what your state looks like, it will very soon, especially on the old folks and the rapidly changing demographic. So we've been living this in Arizona for some time now. So in many ways, I think we can speak as if we're from the future because we've learned how to navigate this and embrace it. In our state, in Arizona, 70% of our adult population was born somewhere else, including me. So think about that. I don't think there's any better leading indicator for a state that people in the most mobile country in the world say, I'm going to pack up a U-Haul and go there. I think it's a result of the opportunities we present, the economic environment, and the quality of life. There's also something else. You know, we are the youngest state, the newest state in the lower 48. So in many ways, there hasn't been time for government to gum up our gears. There is no establishment here. There is no old guard or good old boys club. It's wide open. It's a place where ideas, ingenuity, and creativity can be unleashed, and a place where common sense can rule the day from public policy. I don't think there's any better place in the country today to launch a startup, scale a business, or a concept, or to develop new technology. We see ourselves as a state of first, of forerunners, and risk takers. I like to say that we are the startup state because we have those kind of proof points for opportunities. We're also the 5th largest metropolitan area in the country, built in the middle of a desert. That's real ingenuity and innovation to do that. And you also need responsible leaders to make sure you continue that. We do things a little bit differently here in the state of Arizona. We don't regulate and suppress innovation, and because of that, big things are happening, and we're seeing a real turning of the corner. I've spent the majority of my adult life as an entrepreneur and a businessman, and that's where I continue to keep one foot. I'm much more comfortable in a room like this addressing business people than I am talking to many politicians that I've met. I know what it's like to break into a new industry or a new business, and I want to say that I realize that life in these competitive marketplaces is difficult enough in terms of the pursuit of new ideas and new products and new business models without the heavy hand of government or overly zealous regulators getting in your way. That's why in our state we are responsibly tearing down the regulatory state. Disruption from government is not allowed in this administration, but disruptive business models from companies are more than welcome in our state. From day one in our administration in 2015, we've made it a top priority to clear the way for groundbreaking industries because we want them to set up shop here. We want them to know that they can expand their operations and prosper well into the future and to have political predictability. You are not going to have an elected leader or regulator in this state pull the rug out from underneath your idea. On my first day in office, I signed an executive order putting a moratorium on all new regulations and rulemaking. Within a few weeks of being on the job, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in government, you can only imagine. We got wind that one of our directors in a government agency was planning to sting Uber and shut down their operations during Super Bowl 49 here in Greater Phoenix. I want you to know that we immediately got a new director. And we lifted those regulations immediately. Those regulations were written decades ago for the taxi cab industry and had nothing to do with a new innovative ride-sharing application. So both Uber and Lyft and any ride-sharing company will be able to serve future companies without fear of reprisal. And we took it even further than that. The agency that put that together no longer exists. We've looked across the board. You know, the thing that you don't talk about when you're running for governor is the job of actually governing. You come into this position, it's a budget of over $40 billion, 35,000 employees, 220 boards and commissions, and 43 separate agencies that all report to one office. So there's opportunity galore for streamlining, for reduction, for reducing duplication, and even, in this case, for elimination. And it was during that same time, during Super Bowl weekend, when most of our fans were partying and enjoying themselves, that my team was meeting independently with the leaders from Apple to close a deal on a possible project. We worked so quickly on that the day after that Super Bowl that was in our first month, we were able to announce that Apple would be making the largest investment ever outside of the state of Arizona, over $2 billion in a global command center right here in Mesa, Arizona. A few short months after that, I signed a bill allowing the operation for ride-sharing services statewide. So this wouldn't only happen at the Capitol, it would happen throughout our cities and towns. And we used the state of the state to call on the city of Phoenix, to call on other elected leaders at the local level to finally allow Uber and Lyft at Sky Harbor Airport so you can hitch a ride to and from there. And you may have noticed during your travels, this doesn't exist in many other states around the country. So today, thousands of citizens have signed up in our state, not only as a convenience to the people that come and live in Arizona for these ride-sharing availabilities, but an example is Lyft has contributed $39.6 million to the economy. These are people in our communities making and taking advantage of the extra and final mile as they open up their own small business. So I think it's fitting to say that we've earned the title of ride-sharing capital of the world. Now, last year we passed its first ever of its kind legislation legalizing home sharing services, what we call the sharing economy here. And we're encouraging other states to adopt the same measures. In addition, agreements between our Department of Revenue and home sharing companies save home sharing hosts the time and cost of filing complex tax returns. And the industry has been a boon for our citizens. Last year, nearly 330,000 visitors came to the state of Arizona and stayed in an Arizona Airbnb, earning local hosts $51 million in supplemental income. And when it comes to attracting tech manufacturers, Apple's not the only one making major investments in the state of Arizona. In November, Lucid Motors announced Arizona is the location for its new manufacturing center, bringing them 2,000 jobs and significant capital investment. Their choice of where to expand this groundbreaking technology was highly competitive, with over 60 markets at the table and 13 different states. I know their final decision had a lot to do with Arizona's limited barriers to success and predictability of what the economy and regulation would look like going forward, but it also had a lot to do with our strong regional supply chain. We provide distinct opportunities to partner with our neighbor to the south, Mexico. They are our largest trading partner, and it's not even close, ×4. I was the first governor in the last 10 years to visit Mexico City, and we have built close, friendly ties. So the California and Texas markets are also very close to Arizona as well, but it provides a unique opportunity to the supply chain. Now, there's no other way to put it. The regulators in other states, including California, are stuck in the past and justifying their existence by trying to do more. They're not thinking about the amazing advantages and advances that another tax, another fee, another permit, or another regulatory requirement can snuff out, especially in the most rapidly changing economy of our lifetime. In 2015, I signed another executive order supporting the testing and operation of self-driving cars. In 2016, we announced the launch of a test program for Google and their autonomous vehicles right here in our state. So Uber's choice to flee California 3 days before Christmas and take their driverless cars and drive straight onto I-10 and into Arizona was no accident, nor entirely unforeseen. And the momentum for what we're doing in our state doesn't stop there. Over the last 4 months, we've announced 8,412 projected new jobs with a total of $1.4 billion in capital investment. That includes a 3-week period in November where we announced projects with ADP, Raytheon, Lucid Motors, and Orbital ADK, which will account for 6,000 new jobs. And there's more. The city of Chandler is already home to a booming tech center. Companies like PayPal, Microchip, NXP, Avnet, General Motors IP Innovation Center, Infusionsoft, and more are making tremendous strides there. But the biggest employer in Chandler, Intel, just announced that it is investing an additional $7 billion and will create 3,000 more jobs and high-paying jobs at that company. It will also follow with 7,000 indirect jobs to support that. Along with Intel, Weebly, Zenefits, Yelp, Shutterfly, and Houzz have all expanded into the Phoenix area in the last year. And they may not be a tech company, but Tuft and Needle sure is innovative. And we are happy that they've decided to grow their business right here in Arizona. In fact, just recently, Entrepreneur magazine named Tuft and Needle as the best company in the country to work by measuring culture. In closing, I want to make it crystal clear to everyone that's here today. I'm fully aware that welcoming regulatory climate and unique economic partnerships are not all that's needed to reach and maintain success in this 21st century economy. But great innovative businesses need high-skilled employees who are ready to work. So education and training are an incredibly important part of that, and Arizona is doing a lot to strengthen that talent pipeline. A few short months ago, we launched our most significant priorities in the administration, a statewide initiative called Achieve 60 AZ, which is going to get 60% of our adult population with career, technical, or university training by the year 2030, because the jobs that you provide require that. We've also are leading the nation in terms of new resources that we're putting into K-12 education, and we're seeing the results and improvement in reading and math that's leading the country. So whether it's a degree from a university, career, or technical organization or other parties, we know education advances everyone, and we know that a four-year degree doesn't necessarily fit everyone. So you will see continued investment not only in K-12, but at the university level. Later this afternoon, I'm going to be on stage talking about the virtuous cycle of the economy and education with Dr. Michael Crow, the president of Arizona State University. And I have to tell you, it was a thrill for me to be at a governor's conference just a few short months ago in Massachusetts, hosted at Cambridge, with the governor of the state of Massachusetts, and congratulating MIT and Harvard as coming into second and third place to Arizona State University for most innovative school in the country. In short, we understand how the economy works here. And as a business person who's in public policy, we want to welcome you to our state, not only for this conference, but for any expansion, investment, or supply chain that you want to relocate here. We don't only want to tell you what we're doing right here, but I look at you not as potential taxpayers or taxpayers. I look at you as customers or future customers for our state. So we want to know what we're doing well, what we can do better. We want to share best practices, and I want to thank, again, all of you for being part of this summit, and I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Thank you.